This has been the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. Losing a parent is, I can't describe it. I'm really was hesitant on shooting this video, but I feel like if I didn't share my story, nothing else that I'm trying to do was going to make sense or be connected. On October 3rd, my father passed away from COVID-19 complications. He had been in the hospital for almost 3 weeks after having COVID for about a week and a half. He got it from his sister. And it took over his body and it just would not let go. First, he was on a machine for your nose. Then it went to the CPAP. My father was never on a respirator. I'm doing this because I know it's going to be part of my healing and my journey. But he got tested on a Friday before his birthday, Thursday or Friday before his birthday. We didn't hear from him. I didn't hear from him. I'm like, that's not like my dad. That's not like my dad. It's his birthday. I know he's probably wanting a grill cookout. And I'm in LA, so I'm asking my mom and my brother. I'm like, so what y'all gonna do for dad? And so he's like, I don't know. So I called him and he said he wasn't feeling good. I said, okay. Didn't think anything about it. He's not one to catch a cold, but if he was under the weather, I understand. He didn't even tell us that he got tested. So it was Labor Day weekend, 'cause Monday was a holiday, and he got his test results back on Tuesday. So he went the whole weekend without any medication or anything, and his test came back positive. He and my aunt went, got some medication and things like that. My aunt, recovered and everything, but he did not, and he waited a while before he went to the hospital. He's a fighter. He knew he was gonna get out the hospital. His oxygen levels would fluctuate. He'd be in the 90s, they'd be in the 80s. They wanted it above a certain level. But about towards week two, they had scanned him to see if he had any scarring on his lungs, because for him to be in the spirit that he was and breathing how he was, but he wasn't getting better. None of his organs were shutting down or anything like that, but he wasn't getting better, but he wasn't getting worse. So he didn't have any scarring on his lungs. So we were hopeful. I prayed every night. Prayed through the day. Those were the 3 of the longest weeks of my life. Not knowing what was gonna happen, I would just ask God, please, just let him come home for the holidays. If he, gotta have a breathing machine, I don't care. Just let my daddy come home. And it was hard. It was hard for me to talk to him in there, seeing him in there, FaceTiming him in there. It was just literally I felt like somebody had took my breath, like I couldn't breathe. But I knew it made his day to speak to me and speak to my mom and speak to my brother. I had cousins and, family members and his siblings. They reached out to him as well. We just wanted to keep his spirits lifted, because we hear those miracle stories, if we can keep him uplifted, and if he's positive about it, we're going to be positive about it. And I remember, I wanted to talk to him on October 2nd. It's Friday. And the lady was like, he's resting, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, but I want to talk to my dad. Let it go because of the time difference and everything. And I'm like, if he's resting and he can rest, you know, I want to let him rest. So the day he passed, I was able to talk to him. And I FaceTimed him, and he was just so talkative. He wanted to know how I was doing, because I have been suffering with a condition called papilledemia, and I might share that journey with you all as well in another video. But about me, but I was worried about him. I didn't want to give him any bad news. I told him, I was like, Dad, I think I want to come back. Like anything that I would just make him want to fight more. I was like, you know, I'm looking at a job. He was like, over back this way. Necessarily wasn't looking for one back on the East Coast. But yes, I was like, I am, Dad. He was like, okay, that's good. He was chatty, but you know, with that mask on, that CPAP on, I could hear him, but it was hard to hear him, and I didn't want him to not have the oxygen he needed. So I was like, Daddy, I'm gonna call you later. Mom said she's gonna call you later. I said, if I don't call you later, I said, I'm gonna talk to you tomorrow, okay? And he said, okay. I said, I love you. And so I went on, and I felt good because he was good, and I was like, okay. Those days when you're waiting in the hospital, well, you're not waiting in the hospital, but you're waiting to hear from them. You want news. It was like almost like every time the phone rang and it was my mother, I did not know what she was going to say. I didn't know if I was going to get bad news. It's like I had to prepare myself for whatever was going to be said on that end of the phone. I came home from grocery shopping. I had got me some dinner. And something said, you know, let me eat a little bit, but I haven't heard from my mom today. Well, this evening. So I said, let me check in, see how everything is going, and see how she's doing. And when they answered the phone, Chauncey was there. That's my brother. And they were like, hey, how you doing? Da, 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 da. Kind of, it was a weird feeling. They weren't crying. I didn't see anything, but I was like, I need to go on and tell her. And I'm like, what are y'all, you know, what are y'all about to tell me? Like, what's up? And they were like, you know, Dad is gone. Dad is gone. I still remember, like, I told my brother, I was like, you're lying. I was like, why are you all playing with me like that? And he was like, Megan, I would never play with you in that way. And being 3,000 miles away from your family and getting news like that is like, my God, I can't explain it. It's like it still doesn't feel real to me. I woke up this morning and I just wanted to call him. Because sometimes I would call him before work, before he got too busy on the farm and things like that. My dad was a farmer, retired police officer. And I would call him sometimes before I get up for work, just because of the time difference. And I couldn't pick up the phone and call him. This has been the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. Losing a parent is, I can't describe it. I've lost my grandmother, I've lost aunts, I've lost uncles, but nothing where it was like this. My dad wasn't an old man. I mean, he was 66. I'm 28. I won't get to have my father walk me down the aisle. I never had any grandfathers. I've had grandmothers, but I never got to experience what it's like to have a pawpaw. And I wanted that for my kids so bad, because I knew my dad would be an amazing grandfather. Like, kids just love him. And I just think about all that stuff. You know, I used to fuss with him about doing stuff and taking care of himself. And one of the things I had called him weeks before he even got sick, I was like, Dad, I want to, can you teach me how to shoot when I get home for Thanksgiving? Can we go shooting? Can you teach me how to shoot? And he was like, yeah, baby, I'll teach you. He was like, I could do that. I could do that. One thing I won't have him here to teach me. It's like, how do I don't know how many years I got left on this earth, but how do I go on so many more years and not have, a dad? And, people have been telling me, you're lucky to have experienced a father like the one you had that was there for every major milestone in my life. Told me he prayed for me. Did my hair as a little girl. Took me with him everywhere he went. If I asked for it and really needed it, he could give it to me. He didn't hesitate. But that still doesn't take away from the fact, that my dad is gone. My person, my twin, who I look like. So hard. So it's been a month and a few days, and I'm just like, I still am in a fog. Some days I don't feel like dying, but I don't feel like living either. So my whole world has been flipped upside down. I Everything that I came out to LA to pursue has now been put on hold. I was launching 2 businesses literally in the middle of October. Then I get the news on the 3rd day of October that this has happened. I don't even know where to even begin to pick up the pieces of my life to even try to make sense of what's going on right now. I'm thankful for, my friends, my family that have supported me during this time, that have just been so thoughtful and checking in, and those people that really check in. My line sisters, I appreciate them as well. But you get so many text messages and, people reaching out, and this week they start to fade away. But I really do appreciate those people that are still checking in on me on this, journey. I had my friend told me, you look, you seem to be, handling it well, but what can I do? I try to get a little piece of normality, but at the same time, yeah, y'all might see me post on Instagram. Things people don't see, they don't see that PTSD where I'm afraid I'm going to lose my mother or my brother. They don't see that I can't sleep without having a light on anymore. Like, almost revert back to a kid, afraid of the dark. Not there when I'm in the floor laid out crying because my heart just hurts. My heart is broken. They're not there when you're about to have a panic. You all don't see the panic attacks. How my anxiety has increased. Crazy. Just trying to find a way. Being spiritual during this time does help, but I have to be honest. When you lose someone and all I did was pray. I would pray so much, I'd be in the floor. People didn't even know when I came home after work, I would just fall out on the floor and just cry. Just because I did not know what was happening. And I felt, it's crazy because I was praying and asking people to pray and getting on prayer hotlines, just looking for answers that God was going to save my father and that I was going to be able to give him a hug again, surprise him one more holiday. And it didn't happen. And I have to be honest, I love God. I still believe Jesus laid on the cross and died for our sins, but I have had the hardest time trying to get my prayer life together because I feel like when I needed God most, and I cried and I pleaded and I asked, the one thing, all the frivolous things I've prayed for and asked for in my life didn't mean anything. This is the one thing I wanted, and it didn't happen. And it mean more to me. It's I don't know what. But for my birthday, my one birthday wish, I usually wish let my dreams come true, get some money, businesses prosper. That's usually the way my wishes go. But this wish, I did not know what was gonna happen, but I just said, God, my one birthday wish is that keep my family here one more year. Keep my family here one more year. And then a month later, my birthday's in February, a month later, this hits. And People always talk about healing, and still new. I just don't like feeling heartbroken. Like, I just don't like feeling the hurt so much. And each day it does get a little bit better. I don't cry every day. I cry most days, but I don't cry every day. But I think the hardest thing about losing a parent to COVID in the midst of a pandemic is that you're faced with it every day. Everything can trigger it. You see the numbers going up on CNN. You see like, I get constant alerts about cases every day, and when I see the number, I have to see, like, my father is part of that number. Like, my father is like, this happened to him, and it didn't have to be like that. It's hard. It's hard. Sometimes I think about if I had lost him to cancer or a car accident, would it be any different? Sometimes I think yes, like, at least I could have been with him. At least my mama could have been with him. Right now, they're not even letting people in the hospital like that, but at least if it wasn't COVID, my mom could have been that one designated person that if he had to go, he didn't have to go by himself. I wonder, was he scared? I wonder, what was he thinking? I didn't want him to hurt. I just didn't want him to go. But my father is somebody that he don't like to be down. He's never a person. Like, my father was not somebody that laid around in his pajamas all day. If he got up for the day, whether it was Sunday, whatever, he got up, showered, put clothes on, and sat in the living room. He was a retired police officer, and he went to work. He got up every morning and went to the farm and worked. He fed cows, he rode the tractor, he baled hay, he had crops, all that stuff. That's what he wanted to do when he retired. He didn't want to sit down and just chill. And that's who he was. Even if he had survived COVID and it didn't allow him to farm and stuff, I don't know how he would even feel. Like, he would be so depressed, probably just having that he couldn't do that. And his health was already declining, but it wasn't declining in the sense that I think he wouldn't be here for, more years. We wouldn't have more years with him. My entire life, my father was a police officer, and on his days off, he went to the farm, and he has blessed me and my brother and my mother with land and animals and livestock that we now thing to think about that can eventually provide us with much more than we thought it could. Different business ventures and things like that. So that's a blessing in itself that he was able to leave us something, and that my mom's lets me know that that's something that he really wanted. He wanted to leave his family something. I'm grateful. My uncle had mentioned to me that my dad told him, he was like, he was gonna sell, some timber on the land, but he said that you wanted it, Megan. Like, is that right? And y'all, my father was a man of few words, but when I talked, he listened. He always believed in me. He really was one of my biggest cheerleaders in my life, though he was very a man of few words. But I remember talking to him, and I'm like, Dad, I think I want to have like a vineyard or a winery one day. I was like, so we're not going to sell your land, because he used to always fuss like, y'all going to sell my land. I'm like, nobody's going to sell your land. I was like, I think one day, like, I might want to have a vineyard or a winery. And like, I was like, he didn't say too much. He just like, nodded. Just one of our conversations, just sitting on the couch. And for him to mention that to my uncle, and mind you, I had that conversation at least a year and a half ago with my father. For him to remember that was really special, a special thing that he was thinking of that. Long story short, not really short, but I just wanted to share my truth and share my story with you all, because I feel like I wouldn't be able to put my best foot forward moving forward with my channel if I didn't. So I'm gonna post this video and continue to just share my journey with you all as well. A lot of farm content. Like I said, I now am a owner of a farm, and I have cows and a lot of hay. A lot of hay right now in Virginia. So I'm excited to share that next chapter of my life with you all. So yeah, I think I'm gonna end my video here, and I'm interested to see my journey. I'm interested for y'all to come on this journey with me, and I'll keep you all updated on my healing and what I'm doing. So I'll catch you all in my next video.